In order to open an image, you can do that one of two ways. You can either go to File and then Open and then just select the image, or you can select the image and just drag and drop it into ArtCAM and it will automatically open that up. Now when you do this, it will ask you to set up the model size. This image that I've opened is just a black and white image, but if you take a look down the bottom, you can see in the colour palette there are lots of different shades of blacks, of greys, of whites. Now the way that ArtCAM works to trace around an image is that it traces around one colour. And the way that it does this is by using something called the bitmap to vector tool, which is located at the top here. So if I select that and I go to create vectors now, you can see that the vectors are not very good. So if I zoom in, you can see that I have all of these small vectors. Now if I select this contrast here, it drops the transparency down. So you can see here that the vectors that it's given me are all just small vectors and they're not one continuous vector, and this is not really going to work. So what I'm going to do is delete that. Let's bring the transparency back up. And what you need to make sure that you do is always, first of all, reduce the colours. So if I select reduce colours, just move that out the way so you can see that it's automatically reduced the colours down to 32 colours. Now I want to bring that right the way down until it gets to 2 colours and then select OK. So now the only 2 colours in this image are black and white. And I want to select the black colour. So if I left click it in the colour palette, the primary colour will then become black. And then I can go to create vectors. So ArtCAM has traced around that black colour. So if I now zoom in, drop the transparency down, you can see that I've got these really nice vectors not following the pixelation. And these are good enough to machine straight away. I don't need to do any editing with these. Now if I take a look on the R here, I'll just explain to you what the speckle size and the smoothness do. So the smoothness obviously determines how smooth the vectors are once created. So if I undo that and then change the smoothness to 1, you can see that I get these sharp corners. Now that's useful for this part here, but it's not very useful for here because I'm getting a lot of angular sort of vectors. So you need to find the right balance. Now you'll also notice if I take a look at the eye that I have a vector here, but if I take a look at the other side, I've not got a vector here. Now this is due to what we call the speckle size. So if I were to create a vector now, you can see that it's missing this area here. That's because this area is actually 2 pixels. So this speckle size is actually a tolerance. So if I undo that and set that to 1 pixel, create the vectors, it will create the vectors for me. Now 99% of the time the speckle size, which is default 2, and the smoothness 75 will be absolutely fine, but that's how you use it if ever you wanted to. Now to do a coloured image, I'll just switch to the 2D view so you can see the colours a little bit better. You can see that I've got this green leaves and I've also got a grey tree trunk. Now let's say for instance that I just want to create vectors for these leaves. So I use exactly the same thing again, the bitmap to vector, and I'm going to reduce the colours. Let's just move that out of the way. And I'm going to bring that right the way down to 2 colours. Now obviously it's just turned it into a green and a white image. Now this is going to create vectors for the tree trunk and I don't want to do that. So what I need to do is bring colour back into this. So if I bring some colour back until I get that grey, I can select OK and then let's zoom in. You can see that I've got this green around the edge. and I've also got little bits of dark grey. So what I'm going to do is just link the two greens together. So I can do that by selecting the main green as the primary colour and right click on the second green. And then if I select this little icon above the two colours, it links them together. So it turns all of the light colour into the dark colour. And then I can select create vectors. Now you can see that it's created vectors on the tree trunk. That's because there are various bits of green there. So what I need to do is set the speckle size so it ignores all of these points. So if I undo that, change the speckle size, let's do this something quite large, let's say 50, create the vectors. You can see that it's just created vectors on the leaves.